In the history of U.S. covert operations, few targets were deemed as strategically critical or generated as much controversy as Chile in the early 1970s. This was not a remote, isolated nation. This was a stable democracy led by a charismatic figure named Salvador, who was an avowed Marxist. For President Richard Nixon and National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger, Salvador's 1970 election victory was deemed an unacceptable precedent, a threat to U.S. economic interest, and a political victory for the Soviet bloc in the Western Hemisphere. The direct result was Project FUBELT. FUBELT. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, ladies and gentlemen, but it's FUBELT. That's how you spell it. Also known in earlier planning stages by internal code names like Project OYRR, a multi-million-dollar interagency operation with a single non-negotiable goal: to prevent Salvador from consolidating power, or failing that, to remove him. This is a fully documented record of that operation, pieced together not from conjecture but from the declassified cables and exhaustive findings of the 1975 Church Committee report. Within days of Salvador's election, the operational order came down from the highest level. The documents confirmed that the CIA was not merely asked to monitor the situation, it was given a direct presidential directive. Declassified notes from September 15, 1970, meeting later analyzed by the Church Committee, confirmed Nixon's position. This is a Nixon memo quote. The president ordered the CIA to prevent Salvador from coming to power or to unseat him. He directed that maximum pressure be applied to achieve this end, emphasizing that no risk was too great. This order launched the planning apparatus under the 40 Committee, the government oversight body for covert action. The committee settled on the infamous two-track strategy, a simultaneous approach of economic strangulation and coup preparation. The documents confirming this dual strategy are categorized under the early planning series like CIA RDP80 B01676 R001300050012-7, which detail the interagency coordination necessary for such massive covert action. Track 1 was the operation designed to create economic chaos, to make the Chilean economy scream as Nixon desired, thus fostering domestic unrest and convincing the middle class that Salvador's government was illegitimate. The CIA's role was to use its influence within international financial institutions and private banking. The primary weapons were credit denial and copper market manipulation. 1. Credit strangulation. The U.S. pressured the World Bank and the Inter-American Development Bank to freeze or terminate credit lines to Chile. At the same time, U.S. banks were covertly discouraged from extending commercial loans. A declassified 1971 CIA memo analyzing the economic impact confirmed the strategy's goal. CIA economic analysis, quote, "The coordinated denial of multilateral credit has successfully initiated serious strain on the Chilean balance of payments. Continuation of this policy is projected to exacerbate shortages and political friction within the next 6 months." 2. Covert propaganda and funding. The CIA poured millions into funding opposition media, like the newspaper, and anti-Salvador political parties. This sustained a constant drumbeat of domestic destabilization funded directly by U.S. intelligence assets. The documents show the direct wire transfers and cash allotments used for this extensive media campaign. Track 2 was the hard power strategy, the effort to directly instigate a military coup. This required identifying and supporting Chilean military officers willing to overthrow the constitutional government. The target of this initial destabilization was General René Schneider, the commander-in-chief of the Chilean army, who was a staunch defender of the Constitution and opposed military intervention. The CIA quickly determined he had to be removed. The assassination plot. The CIA began supplying weapons, including submachine guns and tear gas, to coup plotters, fully aware the objective was to kidnap or kill Schneider. The Church Committee report contains the shocking admission of direct involvement. This is a Church Committee finding. The CIA provided arms and large sums of cash to 3 different groups of Chilean plotters in an attempt to kidnap General Schneider. While the agency did not explicitly order his death, the provision of weapons to to known volatile elements initiated the violence that resulted in his murder. Schneider was assassinated on October 24th, 1970. Though the initial coup attempt failed, the operation sent a clear message. The U.S. was actively supporting military destabilization. The CIA then waited and continued to sow discontent within the armed forces until the conditions were right for the 1973 coup led by General Augusto Pinochet? Pinochet? I don't know how you pronounce his name. Pinochet. Project FUBELT achieved its objective on September 11th, 1973. I know, that's what I'm calling it. It's Project FUBELT, but it looks like FUBELT. So let me go back. Okay. Project FUBELT achieved its objective on September 11th, 1973, when the military led by him overthrew Salvador, who died during the siege of the La Moneda presidential palace. The documents show a clear line of causation from Nixon's 1970 order to the final military action. The subsequent investigation by the Church Committee in 1975 ultimately exposed the operation's full scope, forcing the declassification of key cables and internal memos that form the bedrock of this analysis. The committee's final report concluded that the actions were reckless, unwarranted, and led directly to a military dictatorship responsible for massive human rights abuses. The FUBELT files remain the definitive case study in covert action. They confirm that the U.S. government, when unchecked, will use every instrument of national power, economic, psychological, and violent, to enforce its geopolitical will, even at the cost of democracy and human rights. The documentation is exhaustive, painful, and necessary reading for understanding the true reach of unaccountable intelligence power. The story of Project FUBELT is one of immense tragedy and powerful documentation. The sheer weight of the evidence, the presidential orders, the economic cables, the weapons receipts, leaves no ambiguity about the CIA's role in rewriting history. As we turn the page from global political engineering, we look next at a smaller, quieter, but equally critical intelligence challenge: technological espionage. Next time, we are pivoting to the obscure but highly documented world of covert communications. We're going to investigate Project Palladium, the CIA's analysis of and potential use of highly sophisticated, unattended remote weather stations and sensor platforms hidden in hostile terrain for espionage and communication. We will analyze the CIA RThis series memos that detail the discovery of these automated listening posts in places like the Canadian Arctic, the technology they used, isotope thermoelectric generators, and the U.S. intelligence assessment of their potential as listening stations. This is the documented quiet war of wires and sensors in the frozen darkness. It's clear this depth of documented truth is something you won't find anywhere else. If you appreciate having these complex, verified histories presented to you, then I'm sure you've already taken a moment to like this video and subscribe to this channel. I'll see you in the archives.